We're looking at that sort of situation right now in the Red Sea because the military might of the United States cannot prevail against this group of people in Yemen. Now, I don't care what Petey says, and he can bomb the place to pieces. He's not going to stop them. The only way you would stop Al-Ansar is to mount the peninsula there, as it were, by the Bab el-Mandeb or wherever. You'd have to go ashore somewhere, the port of Hodeida or wherever. The Saudis wouldn't do it, and invade. That's the only way. And that's the only way you're going to take Iran down too and ensure it doesn't have a nuclear weapon. And I guarantee you, Nima, as I've said many times before, that's a 10-year war, $3-4 trillion, 100,000 casualties. And at the end of it, it'll look sort of like Iraq or worse. So what are we talking about? Please tell me. You tell me. What are we talking about? Who are these people who are running this empire now? Who are these people?
I think the president has acknowledged that Iran, that he's open to an opportunity to clean it all up with Iran, where they come back to the world and be a great nation once again.
Pretty clear from what he said there, even though it was mild-mannered and it seemed explicable, it seemed like a smart thing to say, and on the surface it was, demonstrated an ignorance. Most potently towards the end, where he says Iran can come back into the world and be a nation again. Dude, Iran is already in the world, already 90 million strong, already a nation. This is a country. This is a country with a history of one of the most powerful empires in the history of humans on this earth. And you're talking about bringing them back into the world? What is your prerogative to bring them back in the world? Now, I know he's ignorant, and I don't use that derisively. I know he has not studied the country. He is not versed in Persian history. He's not versed in Southwest Asia. He's not versed in anything but New York real estate primarily. That's all I can conclude. But this is not the way you do business.
Why do you think, Colonel, President Trump unleashed Prime Minister Netanyahu to resume genocide in Gaza, which unfortunately resulted, I say unfortunately, it was intentional, the killing of 400 civilians in the past 2 days?
I don't think he has any choice. I think when he ran for office, he made certain agreements with major donors. These donors move far beyond just Miriam Adelson. And these donors oblige him to effectively underwrite whatever Mr. Netanyahu wants to do. I thought it was interesting that a recent meeting was set up for the United States with Azerbaijan to talk about cooperation with Israel, but it was set up by Mr. Netanyahu. He called and made the arrangements with Mr. Aliyev, who's the president of Azerbaijan. The State Department did not do it. I think we're very much in the grip of the Israel lobby, and I think President Trump is obliged to go along, and I don't see any evidence that he's going to diverge from that path.
Does he have no choice but to back up Israel militarily when it attacks Iran?
I think so. And keep in mind, you always have the possibility that a war is precipitated somehow by Israel somewhere in the region with Iran. The Iranians respond. And the expectation is, with the buildup of force in the region, we're sending additional carrier battle groups over there right now. The expectation is that we will reinforce whatever the Israelis want to do. We've already done all of the planning for joint strikes, joint strike packages. We're sharing all of the intelligence with our vast satellite arrays with theirs. So I think it's a foregone conclusion. I can't predict when or how, but I think it's going to happen.
All right, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachak Wadash. Double honors to the elder apostles and elder bishops of Great Millstone, who were very well, very beautifully. Double salutations to the Akim out here pushing his gospel, truth, and sincerity to the best of their ability given to them by Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Peace, blessings, and salutations be unto the elect scattered abroad. May the election of Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Lord willing, fall upon your houses. This is the Brother Quana Watts from the Arizona Gray Millstone Camp. Come back at you, Lord will, with the edifying lesson through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Lord will. It is edifying, Lord will. It is straight to the point. And as you had seen, in that video, that clip, a war with Iran, right? War between America and Israel with Iran is looking like it's inevitable, man. As Trump continues to press the issue with this Yemen Houthi rebels, firing at them, and then Israel, going in, even more on the Palestinians over in Gaza. America having skirmishes back and forth with Iran. And this is about to spiral out of hand, man. But I got this right here, Joel 3:9, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war. And so you're having more nations, right, especially EU nations. I had read an article, I want to say a few days ago, going into Germany, right? They have a term, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, it's not my language, but Zienten Wind, right? It's German for turning point, right? Where they're ultimately going to start pouring in billions into their military defense, right? Stepping away from, agriculture, stepping away from building, a political structure and whatnot, and they're focusing more on their military structure, A war is brewing. It says, prepare war, wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up. And see, again, you're having, more nations, right, being brought into the mix, right? More and more, military equipment, so to speak, right? You got, as he said in the article, you got America sending over destroyers and whatnot over into the, into the Middle East. I think it was the Red Sea, if I'm not mistaken. You got more and more, nations, right, preparing their nuclear arsenals, which is, it's prophecy, man, right? As we're reading, right, it says, beat your plowshares and the swords and your pruning hooks and the spears, let the weak say I am strong. More nations, again, focusing on their military might, right? It says, assemble yourselves and come, all ye heathen, and gather yourselves together round about. And see, this is, the Lord gathering these nations, right? Preparing them for that ultimate destruction that's going to take place, right? The valley of Yahweh Shaphat, where the Lord, right? When you go into that word Yahweh Shaphat, it goes into Yahweh's judgment, right? Where the Lord is going to judge these nations, man, and their militaries, where you read that in Isaiah the 34th chapter, that gathering is taking place right now, right? It says, thither cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Lord, Hey, Lord stirring up these nations, man, right? Angels coming down, being sent down to stir up the minds of these nations, But I do also want to touch on this article that I have pulled up right here on Iranian International, right? Because again, right, when you get into the scriptures, right, you have to understand that Iran, right, is, as he said, it is, a prominent nation. It is a powerful nation, Matter of fact, we'll grab this first in Ezekiel the 38th chapter, right? It talks about Iran, right? This is Ezekiel 38, and I'll start at verse 3. It says, and say, thus saith the Lord power, behold, I'm against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. All right, it says, and I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth, and all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. And we've seen, right, Russia, right, because Gog and Magog, right, it's over there, it's going into the land, right, over there in the continent of Asia, right, if you will, right, where they have Russia, China, India, and so on and so forth. But again, this is going into the area of Russia, right, which we know is occupied by the Edomites, right, the Russians, right. So this is speaking on the Russians. It said, I'll put the turn thee back and put hooks in thy jaws, meaning the Lord is going to turn them back into that USSR, right, the Soviet era, type, attitude that they had back then, right, against America, China, right, where they were ready to press that fucking button at any moment, man, and go to war with America, at literally any moment. So now the Lord is turning them back into that mindset, and we're seeing that, right? We're seeing that with Ukraine and Russia, going at it, Russia basically talking about America and so on and so forth. Shit, you even got North Korea, threatening America. You got all these different nations that threatening America, right? To basically fire on them, right? Their ICBM nuclear missiles and shit, or even just regular missiles, right? And we'll keep going to verse 5. And here's the point. It says, Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya with them, all of them with shield and helmet. And when you go back into those, that word Persia, right? When you look it up, right? Matter of fact, let's see if we can look it up. Persia today is called Iran, right? The area historically known as Persia is now called Iran. So this is, again, Iran is labeled as the first, right, labeled ally to Russia, right? So you got America, basically, threatening Iran, saying, hey, if these Houthi rebels, right, which they're saying is Iranian backed, right, continue to fire on Israel as well as fire on America, American, with destroyers or aircraft carriers or any kind of, United States military equipment, then they're going to ultimately come after Iran, and Iran is saying, hey, you can go ahead and do that, but guess what? You're going to be met with devastation, You're going to be met with devastation. And to add insult to injury, you got Israel, right, who America backs, doing the same thing, coming at, Iran. They haven't necessarily had any kind of, skirmish yet, but hey, you best believe that's going to happen here soon, right? As these men were saying in that video, right? So let's go back into this article that I had, right? Because it says right here in Iranian International, it says Russia moves to ratify comprehensive treaty with Iran. And when you go into that word ratify, it goes into approve, right? So they're ultimately, their ties together are getting stronger, right? Let's read a little bit of it, right? It says Russian President Vladimir Putin has formally submitted the Comprehensive Strategic Partnership Treaty with Iran to the State Duma for ratification, a significant step in the deepening ties between Moscow and Tehran, right? Which Tehran is, both these cities, Moscow and Tehran, are capitals, right? Moscow, capital of Russia, Tehran, the capital of Iran, right? It says the treaty was signed in January during Iranian President Mossad Pezeshkian's visit to Moscow, and aims to institutionalize long-term cooperation between the two nations, which they've already been allied, right, for a long time. They've already been in good standing for a long time. But see, as it says, they're deepening their ties. Like it says Iranian ambassador to Moscow, Kazim Jalali, it said the agreement consists of 47 articles covering a broad spectrum of collaboration, including advanced technologies, cybersecurity, peaceful nuclear energy, military defense cooperation, counterterrorism, and anti-money laundering measures. And we understand that to add to this, they've been doing those joint military drills, man. Right, Iran and Moscow, as well as I think it might be China as well, if I'm not mistaken. But I know for sure Iran and Russia have been doing joint military operations with each other, right? It said he said that the latest treaty now moves beyond the scope of a previous 20-year strategic pact signed in 2001, which was automatically extended for 5 years in 2021, right? It says the leaders of both countries agreed that the existing agreement was outdated and insufficient to cover the current breadth of their evolving relationship, Jalili said. And Russia even made the statement that, any kind of conventional, attack, right, on their soil, right, because they basically redefined, right, their nuclear use, the reason for their nuclear use. So they're saying any kind of conventional attack, right, will be met with nuclear response, So Russia's already ready, man. Russia's ready to go. And see, when dealing with, Israel and America, right, basically threatening and attacking Iran, this is going to spiral. Russia's going to end up getting into the mix, because when you go back into Ezekiel the 38th chapter and you drop down to verse 7, it says, "Be thou prepared, and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them." So Russia is ultimately going to play that protector role when it comes to Iran, because, see, they're deepening ties, meaning their relationship's getting better, right? And when you look in the world, right, if you got two friends, right, and then you got some dude that, that wants to pick on one of the friends, this, that, hey, well, that friend is going to hop in there, man. Especially let that friend be bigger, or let that friend be, a bully type. That friend is going to help, If one of my friends is getting jumped or this and the third, hey, best believe I'm finna jump in there, man. And I'm going to protect my boy, And that's how it's going to be, right? You got America and Israel basically ganging up, on Iran. And guess what? Russia's going to jump out the mix and say, no, that's not what's going to happen, man. And then it's going to be all she wrote from there, man. When you go back to it, it says leaders, it says, while the specifics have not been publicly disclosed by either Tehran or Moscow, mirroring the secrecy surrounding Iran's 25-year agreement with China, Russia has indicated that the 2001 pact involved collaboration in industry and technology, security projects, energy, and construction of nuclear power plants, right? And that's really all I want to get on that. Y'all can go ahead and read this, but nonetheless, right, the ties between Russia and Iran are becoming stronger, right, which spells destruction for America, because America's the one that is financing and backing militarily the one who basically started this, and that's the small hats, right? Which scriptures go in on that, right? This is Jeremiah, what is that, 49, if I'm not mistaken. 49 and 50 and 45. Yeah, it's like Jeremiah 50 and 45 says, "Therefore hear ye the counsel of Yahweh Bahashim Yahushai that he hath taken against Babylon," right? Babylon being the main one who is going to be the one to be destroyed, right? The main component, right? For all these nations, right? All the problems that these nations are facing, America seems to be the one that's at the forefront of all that shit, man. Right? The EU nations, right? That we're seeing that, hey, they're saying, hey, we're gonna issue a nuclear treaty, right? For the European Union, we're gonna add Ukraine in there, right? Right? It's America, right? America is not backing that whole situation, which is causing these nations to look at America like, hey, what the fuck are you doing, man? Right? What's going on with you? This whole shit with, Zelensky and Trump and JD Vance and whatnot. Hey, a lot of these nations, right, that are currently still allied with America are starting to look at America like, what the fuck? You ain't making too many wise decisions, man. It says, and his purpose, that he hath purpose against the land of the Chaldeans, surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Which the least of the flock is who? The small hats, the 1948ers, man. The JOOs, man. The Judeans, just to say it another way, man, but which they're not the true Judeans, man. They're again, they're the small hats, they're imposters, but nonetheless, they're the ones that are drawing this whole situation out, right? And again, it began with them, you know, committing genocide on these Palestinians, man, and going super hard, right? As you just heard, the dude, you know, and I'm assuming that you know, article happened within the last week, but within the last couple of weeks, you know, Israel's been bombing, you know, the Palestinians in Gaza. Right, as you said, it said 400 innocent people within 2 days. They've done fucking murder, man. You know, and again, you had that I can't remember what they call him, man, but ultimately he's the head leader of Iran, right? He was basically calling for all Muslim nations basically to band together, and we're starting to see that more, right? The Muslims over there in Jordan, in Yemen, right? All these different, you know, sects of their what do you want to call them, man? Militia groups, you know, in a sense, right? The Houthi rebels and Hamas, right? Which, you know, so on and so forth, man. Right? All of them they're banding together and saying no. They're coming up against the Israelis, and America is saying no. We're going to jump in and back you up. You know, which is going to cause, because America is funding Israel, right? You had Netanyahu coming to America and standing before Congress talking about funding to Israel, you know, and America is also funding the war between Russia and Ukraine, funding Ukraine, you know. So America's been, you know, ultimately causing all these damn issues that are out here, man. Right? As far as these different wars, America is the one that's backing all this shit. You know? It says, surely he shall make their habitation desolate with them. And that's exactly what these skirmishes, these issues are going to lead to. Right? They're going to lead to the implementation of World War III. The complete and utter destruction of America, you know, as well as Israel, right? The difference between the two is that Israel will be built back up. America won't, right? Let's go ahead and grab that in Jeremiah, jumping up to Jeremiah 50 and verse 9. It says, for lo, I will raise and cause to come up against Babylon an assembly of great nations from the north country. Again, that north country being Russia, right? And the assembly of great nations, as we, you know, read some of them, right? They're going to be Russia's allies, right? And those who are also, you know, looking at America as a problem, right? China, North Korea, right? Other countries as well. But it's not going to stop just there. It's even going to be America's allies, right? Those who are allied with America now are eventually going to turn against America, you know, and shoot nuclear ICBM nuclear missiles, man, upon America, right? Let's go ahead and jump to that real quick. This is Revelations chapter 17 and verse 16. It says, and the 10 horns which thou seest upon the beast, which is going into the EU, right? And the NATO, right? EU and the NATO, right? It says, these shall hate the whore and shall make her desolate and naked and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. So we're starting to see that hatred, right? Going into Daniel's, the second chapter, around the 41st verse, 42nd verse, right? Talk about that kingdom being divided, that iron and the miry clay not mixing, right? But being divided, right? We're seeing that take place as of right now, right? America being divided from, you know, the EU nations, right? Some of these NATO nations, Poland, so on and so forth, right? That division is taking place, and we understand in Matthew 12 and 25, right, that if a kingdom is divided against itself, it cannot stand, you know? So we're seeing the deterioration, right, of the Babylonian rule, right, the modern Babylonian rule, right, which we know that, again, modern Babylon is America, you know? So let's go ahead and go back. I don't want to make this too much longer, man. I got to get back to plantation, man. Jeremiah 50, and we'll finish out verse 9. It says, for lo, I'll raise and cause to come up against Babylon an assembly of great nations from the north country, and they shall set themselves in array against her. From thence she shall be taken. Their arrows shall be as of a mighty expert man, None shall return in vain. And you can read in Joel, the 2nd chapter, it talks about those ICBM nuclear missiles, man. Right? How they're going to leap from, from top of mountains, right? They're going to go from, and talk about arrows, right? Arrows can't do that, right? They can't fly from the top of a mountain and hit a whole nother country, right? It talks about a flame of fire devoureth before them, right? And a flame goeth after them, right? Meaning you got that fire that's propelling them, right, to go to wherever they need to go. And then you got the devouring fire that they are going to bring when they touch down and wherever they're going to hit. And they're not going to miss, man. Right? Scripture talk about in Joel, the 2nd chapter, they're not going to thrust one against another, you're not going to be able to shoot them down, right? And there's been talks about the that golden, I throw quotations on that, my hands, but that golden, Iron Dome that Trump was talking about. He signed an executive order to put that here in America. Well, it's been proven, right? Because when Iran ultimately fired on Israel, right, it was like 200 some, missiles or something like that shot off, and only like 55 got shot down, or if I'm not mistaken, only 55 made it. But nonetheless, proving that Iron Dome don't fucking work with regular missiles. What makes you think it's going to work with nuclear missiles, right? Which fly at Mach 17, Mach 18, Mach 21, right? Way faster than any one of these regular ass conventional missiles can go. They're not going to be able to stop them, man. They're not going to be able to stop a nuclear missile. Talking about a city with matter of fact, let's grab that real quick. And going back to Ezekiel, 38th chapter. I think it's the 11th verse. It says, "And thou shalt say, I will go up to the land of unwalled villages," meaning there's no protection, right? There's no protection. There's no defense, right? It says, "And I will go to them that are at rest and that dwell safely, all of them dwelling without walls and having neither bars nor gates," right? So there you go, right? America is that place that has no defense, right? Even with that golden Iron Dome being in place, that's still not a good enough defense to fight off these damn missiles, man. No, man, it's going to be a complete and utter destruction, right? It says, we'll just keep reading down. Verse 10, it says, "In Chaldea shall be a spoil, and all that spoil her shall be satisfied, saith Yahweh. Because ye were glad, because ye rejoiced, O ye destroyers of mine heritage, because ye are grown as fat, because ye are grown fat as the heifer at grass, and bellow at bulls, your mother shall be sore confounded. She that bare you shall be ashamed," right? And that mother's going into the UK, right? Because going back, to 1776, really all America came out of, and was born, right, from the UK, right? You had that treaty or Declaration of Independence, right, that was ultimately, declared, right, in 1776 from, right, the UK, right, Great Britain back then, right? It says, "She that bare you shall be ashamed. Behold, the hindermost of the nations shall be a wilderness, a dry land and a desert." And that's talking about America, man. Right? That's what's coming to America. Desolation, right? It says, "Because of the wrath of Yahweh, it shall not be inhabited, but it shall be wholly desolate. Everyone that goeth by Babylon shall be astonished and shall hiss at all her plagues." And that plagues is going into those ICBM nuclear missiles, right? Let's go ahead and touch on that real quick. In Zechariah chapter 14 and verse 12, it says, "And this shall be the plague wherewith Yahweh, Bahashim Yahweh Shai, will smite all the people that have fought against Jerusalem. Their flesh shall consume away while they stand upon their feet, and their eyes shall consume away in their holes, and their tongue shall consume away in their mouth." Right? This is going into, again, though, that fire and radiation that those ICBM nuclear missiles are going to bring. Complete and utter destruction, man. Let's go back. Jeremiah. I know it seems like I'm going all over the place, man, but building through the Spirit, Lord wills, edifying thus far. But verse 14, it says, put yourselves in array against Babylon round about, all ye that bend the bow, shoot at her, spare no arrows, for she hath sinned against Yahweh Ba'ashem El Shai. And this is what's coming, man. World War III is already here. And before it hits its peak, we understand that Jacob's trouble has to happen right before, right? The hour of temptation. But nonetheless, if World War III is close, how much closer is Jacob's trouble? Which means, hey, man, Lord will, we're getting out of here soon. But that's all I got, man. I just wanted to, ultimately touch on that. Lord will is edifying, Lord will straight to the point. I'm going to give all praise, honor, glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rechak Wadash. Double honors to the elder apostles, other bishops, great millstone. Till next time I say shalom.